Recording in progress.
Okay. Yes. Scott,
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Robert,
Yes.
Patrick, absent. Diane, here. Jerry,
Here.
and Christina, here. And does somebody, want to make a motion to name Christina a voting member?
I'll make the motion to make her a voting member.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a whole bunch of minutes to approve. Due to lack of forums and so forth. July 11, August 8th, November 1st, November 14th, and November 18th. November 18th was a site visit. November 14th, was also a site visit, but it really wasn't a meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So we really isn't a set of minutes for the 14th. Does anybody want to make motions either on all of them or one of them, or anybody want their mind refreshed as to what the
I
topics
think
were?
we don't have minutes for the 18th, right? So,
The 18th was a
Not
site
a meeting.
visit. Yeah,
yeah.
it
So
was a site visit.
I vote we to approve the minutes of those other 4 meetings.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Robert,
Sure.
and you want to do the roll call? Okay, Scott,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Stan, Jerry,
Aye.
Margaret, aye, Christina, aye, Bonnie. Aye. Okay, we finally approved the minutes. Selectmen's report, do you have something to report?
No, just finishing up all the budgets and that we're just about done. Just trying to make sure all the good grants are organized to make sure we get all our money by the end of the year.
And the budget committee, I was okay with our budget.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We divided up last week into some subcommittees to get some things done in between meetings. And one of the subcommittees was the subdivision regulations. Bonnie and Christina, we did not do the subdivision regulations. We worked on the master plan instead. It just seemed like a project that was going to be easier to work on, and I'll talk about the subdivision. So anyway, Christina and I took the master plan and went over it to just have a draft. It stressed an awful lot in the RSA that the master plan needs to reflect the residents of Woodstock's desires, and they even use the word desires. So we came to the conclusion that we put together sort of a draft, a boilerplate of categories, and that soon, real soon, we should have maybe mid-January a listening session or a public session, either on the planning board meeting night or a separate night, to hear what the residents' desires are. So I think everybody got a draft of what we did. In your package, do we give everybody one? We'll give everybody one, so maybe everybody can look at it. We don't need to read it tonight.
Sure.
But what we did, we went from 30 pages or something. Deleted all the trees and the birds and the bees and the rivers and all that stuff is gone. And it's basically divided into, here's the topic, and it's only 10 pages long. But there's a lot that needs to be filled in, of course. This is just a boilerplate thing. We can look at it briefly. The purpose came straight out of the RSA. That's pretty much verbatim what it says as to why you have one. So the purpose page is basically a quote out of the RSA. Vision
Do we email that to
No, because we just, we worked on it yesterday and Christina sent it to me, but I sent you you got one in your packet, right? You got one there, somewhere.
her? It's stuff I bought in.
Did we give them one?
It should be in the
It's in the
photocopy
packet.
stuff that I gave you with the agenda.
Yeah, it's in there. We gave it to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, all right.
So all you have to have, the only thing you have to have for a master plan is a vision and a land use. Just a vision. What do you have for a vision for the town? And what are your land uses that you desire and want? So we just took all of that verbiage out of the other one and just came up with a vision page, and that the visions can be identified after the listening sessions we have. And we just, and it's very, they clearly noted that, and this is a quote straight out of the RSA, this section shall contain a set of statements which articulate the desires of the citizens affected by the master plan, not only for the locality, but the region and the whole state. These are supposed to be visions for not only us at Woodstock, but taking into consideration what's good for the region and the state. And we came to the conclusion a little bit that, and folks around town have been talking about it a bit, that there's a lot going on in Lincoln. And we are right next to it, and we're downstream from it. Not only right next to it, but we're downstream from it. We use the same road networks and the same exits off of the interstate. And we share a ton of facilities together. We do tons of stuff together. So that maybe we should open our eyes and see what's going on over there. And maybe once in a while we should ask questions, and maybe once in a while we should say, hey, that's a project of regional impact. Maybe we should. And that's something that the citizens can say, yeah, we want you to take note of what's going on over there, because it is going to affect us. We're going to crowd the, whatever it is they say, good point. It is a good point and something to think about as we try to develop our master plan and maybe make it a goal to really be informed what's going on over there and how it affects us. If this, becomes the bedroom community for Lincoln, that affects us. We have enough room in the school, but things that happen over Lincoln can possibly affect us. So it's just a thought. Then citizens' desires, we're supposed to actually list them, what they desire us to do. Principles, these are the guiding principles that you want to keep in mind, like you want to keep Woodstock Point.
What does
We
that mean?
want to support. We looked that up. Uniquely Point, we looked it up, and that was in the old. Master plan. Quaint means folksy.
So it's a lot of interpretation.
Pretty big.
It is.
It's vague, but when we have, a
Oh,
meeting,
sure.
we
No, I
can
agree.
define it
No, I
better.
think it's not.
Define. We need a word to say, we want to be a small town. And that's what we want to be. If we want to still appear to be a small town with a neat downtown section and opportunities throughout the town, like is the current trend. We need, one of our principles needs to be, well, what do we want to be?
Well, the way things exist today, this town's kind of like Lincoln is wagging the dog here.
Mhm.
I mean, there are people that are concerned that Lincoln wants to use our sewer treatment plant, for example. And that we're gonna end up being a toilet for Lincoln.
No, we're not.
There's a lot of different concerns that, everybody's heard stories of being told this isn't gonna happen and this isn't gonna happen, and then it does, And I hope that's very true, but
No, I mean, maybe when I talk about it, I haven't heard anything about the sewer treatment, the water system. But there has been discussion years ago about the water system, but nothing serious on either.
And our
one.
water system is sparse.
Oh, yeah, and I don't think there's any interest, honestly,
Right.
from at least the select board that we have now,
And
you know.
even in our rough draft, there's a lot about the infrastructure of Woodstock to maintain the integrity, and even in the rough draft.
So what are our most important things? What are our principles? What are our priorities? How do we prioritize these things we think are important? What are our land uses? Presently? And what do we visualize they're going to be? And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Just a list off short and sweet without a lot of florally language in there. So Christina and I took on that project rather than the subdivision regulation, because I'll tell you an offer we have for that in a minute. Because it was doable at the time we had, and it's something that we needed to do anyway. And it's just a place to start. And it's something to hand out to the people that come to the meeting to tell us what they want. It's food for thought, and that's all we intended it to be.
With the subdivision regulations, Lonnie, I think the town attorney thought there was a lot of issues.
Yes,
So maybe we should listen to what she has to say first before we spend a lot of time. I don't know, going down. that road. It's up to you.
Margaret and I, and Robert couldn't make it. We were the committee back then, Margaret, Robert and I. And so we had one meeting and Robert, and we took one look at it and it's way beyond what in the world the three of us could battle through, comparing what we got and what the RFA says, and it's an important document, it's complicated. And Laura has said that she would go through it for us, that's the attorney, first blush through,
I think
to
that-
make it,
Right.
legal with what the current RSA's.
Right.
That doesn't take away our thought to
No,
have opinions,
not at all.
but she has offered to take the first blush through and make it legal and current with all the RSA's. And the North Country Council also provides that service. So, I think we're gonna need the expertise of either one to get through it first, because it,
Oh.
didn't we, Margaret? We sat in, oh, gosh, here we again. What in the world?
I agree. We need either one or both. Either one, yeah.
Yeah, either one or both. So you can think about it, and soon we should maybe get quotes, prices, and to see what they would charge us to, maybe. we
I
can
feel
sell-
very well versed on it. I've had my attorneys look it over and I've studied it thoroughly so I can
Alright.
understand the impact on my property.
Uh-huh,
And I feel I know it very, very well.
mhm.
Well, I think the chances of getting that done for this town meeting are probably slim.
Well, luckily, I don't think it needed.
It does need, I don't know, I don't know.
Meeting. Isn't that the conclusion we do? It does not need.
not.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
you public
we are
hearings.
not under pressure to get this ready for March.
So you got public
Here.
hearings. Okay,
Yeah, it is our document and we do it.
Right.
So we're not under that town meeting pressure and try to slap together something fast. So does everybody agree we should get some quotes and see if those two entities can help us at least get through the first blush?
sure, yeah, I make a motion.
All right,
I second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we had another subcommittee of Jerry and Diane looking at any amendments we might need. And that would come to town meeting if we needed any, to the earth excavation. And did Jerry and Diane come to any conclusions?
Yeah. You wanna run with it or?
You remember that?
Laura had made some suggestions. And really, there was only one suggestion that. Basically housekeeping, which is changing a word.
The notes
Yeah,
on page 5 of 11.
Yep.
In the beginning. In general, was the use of the word shall or
I knew that,
should,
I knew that was what you were gonna
just
say.
because it's,
Yeah.
and it's interpretation, one is action, one, you might want to. And I think leaving gray areas, something like that, that you've got people working at that point in time, and then you have a shall and a. Or it's like the discrepancy that somebody didn't get a notice, it's such a tiny thing. In those days of being able to just resolve that on a one-on-one, I think are over. So we've got to cover. So that doesn't become something that ends up being contentious somewhere in there.
Sure.
yeah, what it was in section 6. Where the projected site requirements. The following site development standard. Used to say should be incorporated into the site excavation plan and or conditions for permit approval. But as you read down section 6, there are A, B, and C, and in A and C, they use the word shall, which kind of contradict our very first sentence. Sure. So the housekeeping is just to change the word should to shall, and it conforms with the rest of the requirement in
But the word should, maybe the shalls should be made should, because you have the option as a board to not do something.
it's basically just reporting that you will do it.
What does the should and shall refer to? What,
The following site development standards should be incorporated into the site excavation plan and or conditions for permit approval.
Should be shall,
Yeah, and down below in A
And
and
we
B
can
and
always
C,
make an
the
exemption.
word shall is used that you will do it. So it's just making that blanket introductory statement conform with the regulations as they are written. That's all it's doing.
now that one, we need a hearing on it. If we're- so, do you need to work on it some more, or do you see other things, or?
No, the other
that
things, it
was
was just, the other things that she had in here, we conform to, so.
Okay,
That was just redone a couple of years ago, so.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was, but
Yeah.
there was a suggested amendment. She had a suggested amendment. That's coming straight from the lawyer, right? That suggested
Correct.
amendment,
The amendment
not
that
something we
the
made
should
up.
be, should be
Shall.
changed to
Shall.
shall.
And that's all you
And then
found?
there was also on page 8D, there's another place where the board shall hold a public hearing. So it seemed like shall was,
Throughout the,
yeah,
we use the word shall in just about every other section of the application of the whole regulation.
So do you think you guys are about ready to call a public hearing on it? Then you get input and then you decide under something else. If the-
Well,
Right.
yeah, there was one other, I skipped my notes on here. She also recommended that in section section 7D, where it's section 7D covers the
that
action on permits, where it says the board shall hold public hearing. Sorry about that, guys. It's my birthday and
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
I think I might have missed this.
sorry.
Go on.
So.
Happy birthday, bud.
I'll talk to you later. I'll call you back. Bye. Turn this off. I thought I had it on excuse me, airplane mode, and I didn't. So in going back to, let's say section 7,
Yeah,
section
down
7
in D, yeah.
on D.
Mhm.
As specified in RS 155E7, the board shall hold a public hearing within 30 days after receiving a completed application. Noticing all abutters, Conservation Commission, and the Woodstock Selectmen. Notice of the public hearing will be posted in 3 places within 20 days of hearing, and the board shall render a decision to grant or deny the requested permit. Prior to the granting of a permit, the board will conduct a pre-inspection visit site, photographs, the proposed site, be in receipt of an appropriate bonding, and be in receipt of necessary DES and EPA permits, DOT driveway permits, and any other necessary state, federal, or local permissions and permits, and be in compliance with the municipal, state, and federal laws. The excavation permit approved by the board shall cite all permit issuances, conditions, and weatherable permit sign depicting the located excavation site. The signatures of the board and any conditions and the permit expiration date. The permit shall be signed, posted in a secure manner at a prominent location near the excavation site. If the application is denied, the owner shall be notified in writing by the board stating the reasons for the denial. A permit will not be issued until proof of a bond is received. This is what the attorney wanted to add, this one sentence saying work may proceed on portions of the site not requiring state permits before those permits are received. So part of the site doesn't require any permits, you can start working, you can start working on it. And if the sections that do require permits, you can't do anything until all permits are incorporated. So did I explain that clear enough? Okay.
We felt that that was a good idea.
It
You
should
don't
be,
want
it should add that
construction
paragraph.
being held up because of one part of it that hasn't really nothing to do with.
Sounds reasonable.
That's,
Question for you.
Yes, John?
If you read that sentence, it will make it non-conformance with 155 Echo, correct?
155 what?
Echo, E,
E.
the excavation permit.
Why,
I-
no,
The
why,
reason why I'm saying
don't
this
think
is if
so.
you look at the last section of RSA 155 Echo, and you look at the text that you have in the excavation permit, if a disparity exists between the RSA and your excavation ordinance, then whichever one is most limiting takes effect.
Well, that's a good question for Laura.
yeah,
So by adding that sentence, it's effectively making it non-compliance with 155. So you can then be in compliance with your
Yeah.
ordinance,
which 155?
155E.
Well, I question
want-
whether the town attorney would recommend it if it was illegal.
well, it goes along with the.
What he's trying to say is, if we do an ordinance that is more stringent than the state law, then when the two conflict, the more stringent one is the one that takes effect.
Exactly.
So it's not illegal to do, it's simply which one takes
Right,
precedence.
sure.
And whether or not we want to go beyond what the state rules are, that's the question for the board.
E11-1 regulations,
E11
1, first paragraph.
and E11. The regulator may adopt
Yes,
The regulator may adopt such regulations as may be necessary or reasonably necessary to carry out the provisions of this chapter, including adopting a permit fee schedule. Whether such a local regulations differ from the provisions of this chapter The provisions which impose greater restriction or higher standard shall be controlled.
Yes,
Okay. Except that no local regulations shall supersede the sole applicability of the express standards under RS 155E 1, 3, and 4. So I mean, there is provision in there that says that we can't override the
Right.
The
So
state-
that provision is essentially put in there, so you can charge what you want for the permit fee.
Yeah.
That's what it was decided.
And I
It
don't
wasn't
think
to change the rules of.
that, you know,
what
the town
state
attorney is a
was doing.
municipal attorney. I don't think you would have put something
No.
in there that
I-
wouldn't be legal or hold up.
I think this
really-
is similar to what we did on the last one. And that the applicant could proceed on the portions of the
That would have permitted.
that did not need the wetlands permit. We didn't have to wait for the wetlands permit, which wasn't necessary at the time, but was going to be necessary in 5 years or 2 years from now. It doesn't hold somebody up waiting for a permit that they don't need right now to work in the area they're working in right now. And to me, that language kind of puts in our ordinance that philosophy that we adopted
Absolutely.
the last time we approved one. That's how I read it.
I
And
read it too. Let's move on.
okay, so we will have, what we need to do, if we're pretty okay with that ordinance being pretty close, you know, to how we want it and ready for a public hearing, we should perhaps schedule a public hearing on it.
Yeah.
And also maybe the same night, a listening session on the master plan, maybe the two events in one night. Are you thinking that, or are you thinking January?
Daily
meeting?
event.
We'll make it an event. All right, do you wanna have it on, at the January meeting, the February meeting, midway through January, special meeting? You want
That's special.
no special meeting?
He was pointing out some discussions, when to have this for an open hearing.
Yes,
Okay.
It seems like you're ready. We could do that in the next meeting.
Yeah,
and that's in time for town meeting.
Well, I don't think it doesn't need to go to town meeting, you said, right?
not that I have to go to town meeting, but if it's before town meeting, that way we know what we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, no, yeah, right, you're right. Doesn't need, okay, so we'll schedule the earth excavation for our next meeting, for a hearing. And the same night, talk about this.
Sure.
All right, the revisions, all right, anything else to add, Jerry and
No, that was it.
Diane? Thank you for your work. And then we had a subcommittee report on reviewing of the floodplain management ordinance and FEMA requirements, Margaret and Scott.
Well, I think Kathy really took the bull over her horns on this. She's great to have in the office and really is able to do projects that Judy and Cheryl, there's no way she made that. So she took the recommended changes to the town ordinance and plugged all those in. And I just had a couple questions I'd like to get answered before we kind of finalize it. Like my question about mean sea level and a couple things like that. Otherwise it seemed to hold. And we need, this does need to go to town meeting.
Yes.
And we need to have an ordinance so that anybody in the floodplain can get flood insurance. If we don't have the ordinance, they cannot get flood insurance.
Yeah, this is important, and it is a town meeting function and is 100% necessary to get flood.
And this just follows the federal law the way it is. It doesn't make anything harder or more difficult. Like a lot of towns, they even won't go above this and make it more difficult. This is just the leanest thing we can do and qualify, I think.
And is this the one that we basically said, yeah, we just wanna adopt state?
No, this is federal.
This is federal.
So I'll do that one next.
Oh, okay, that's the next one, all right.
So basically, I just had a couple of questions and we'll email out to everybody maybe before the next meeting. when we finalize it, you guys can all look it over and see if you see any issues.
Okay,
Cause just a few little things. And as far as the Shoreline Protection Act, I haven't got the final word, but about 10 years ago, the town voted to follow the state ordinance, which don't have any choice to, they have to anyway.
right,
So there's no reason to have our own ordinance. All we have to do is follow the state laws, and that's it. And the only thing we have to make people aware of is where they apply to, which is just the Penny River and the Lost River up to Glover Brook. So, and now Jackman Brook. So, and now those are the only two places that it applies. So, and that's so I haven't heard finally back from Laura, but I think she agrees with me that there's no reason to go any further on that. You just tell the people that the state law, and they have a whole website on the shoreline protection, and everything like that. The only reason you want to go to town meeting if you want to make them stricter. They're pretty strict already, and I don't think people will want to make it any stricter. So that's my attitude. You're into that too. Stupid. Well, like right now, the whole riverside of Main Street is in shoreline protection. And it, in some ways, some badly, and some, you know, just very lightly and just not really impacted that much, but you know, you have to at least go through the motions anytime you really do anything now.
Right.
That whole card seems ridiculous, but so 250 feet from the river now.
did you ask, here's the Laura's opinion at this point in time. Did you
Right,
see this?
I did, yeah,
You saw that.
yeah, I think she's saying what I just said.
She's saying it.
You gotta follow the state law anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. And you asked, the question here is whether the vote from 2019.
Yeah. It wasn't 19, no, it was like
14, I think.
14.
For that, whether the vote from 2014 really adopted the changes. The answer is I cannot know until I see the vote.
I think what's gonna find out is that we voted to follow the state law, and which is good, but I just don't think anybody's gonna want to make it any more difficult.
No. She
So,
said, in general, the state law applies automatically
exactly.
without the
So,
town having to do anything.
exactly, that's my point. The
Those
state law
are
is-
minimum standards, and unless we want more stringent standards, we gotta follow the state. We basically said in 2014,
They'll follow the state.
we'll follow the state, whatever they
Right.
require and want, fine, that's what we want. And, those are minimum standards, and she said, just basically saying we don't do anything because the state standard is there and they're gonna do the state standard if they're gonna build something.
The only thing that's good with the floodplain thing too, I gotta bring up that it's like probably the plan, the building permit, it needs to be addressed a little bit in that if you renovate a property in a floodplain, to spend more than 50% of the appraised value upgrading it, then you have to go to current. You're not grandfathered.
And this is And this is, did Laura do this changes to the floodplain
No,
development?
that was a state thing.
That was the state, oh, the state suggested this. Yeah, so there is work to be done on this and.
A little bit
A
more,
little
yep,
bit more.
yep,
And we'll keep working on it. And,
but that's gotta be done probably by the next meeting.
so we should, if there's changes we need to make, we should have a hearing on that also.
Yep.
If we need to.
Yep.
Bring it to town meeting.
Oh, there's gonna be changes.
Yeah.
To the old one, for sure,
All right,
just to make it legal.
so it's going to be a long night next month. There's a couple of, and we have a boundary line adjustment coming too, next month. On 112. Some sort of, I don't know many details about it, it just came in. And the notice has to go out, probably tomorrow to get the 21 days in. But anyway, there's also going to be a boundary line adjustment, next month.
On which boundary?
I don't know the property. She just handed the folder to us and, Christina and I are gonna look at it tomorrow at 9 to see where it's a property on 112. I don't know any more about it. Exactly where it is. Okay,
Throw in one little question
Sure.
regarding the floodplain. With these rulings, are they assigning any liability for people building in the floodplain and then things getting washed away? and-
Well, the thing is, you have to, that's what these are about, how to build, what you have to do, what the requirements are, if you build in the floodplain, if you can build in certain parts of the floodplain, it's pretty, I'll send it to you. So you can see it, but, if they build in the floodplain, they has to be certain specs, you know, like.
Right, but if they build and they build to the specs and it gets washed away anyway, like bridges do, and, you know,
Yep. Federal government's problem, I guess.
so everybody else gets, the taxpayer gets to pay
Yep.
for cleaning it up.
Yes. You're right.
Maybe that's something to address in there.
I don't think. we
Assign
can-
some
I don't
liability.
think we can do that, but I'm not
Why not?
disagreeing, I'm not disagreeing
You're
with you, but I.
250-foot setbacks, yeah.
we did the earth excavation site visits in 2 sessions, we started early. We did half of them on the 14th, and then we had to schedule another meeting on the 18th to finish up. Which we did do. Does anybody remember anything of extreme note that we found? We got quite a lesson in earth material and so forth. It was very informative, a very lengthy, informative session. We learned an awful lot about earth excavation sites. It was an opportunity to really become informed as to how they operate and the different materials and what they are and so forth. I don't think any of us came away with the impression there were any violations or major violations, nothing of that sort.
Green standing violations.
But it was an opportunity. We spent quite a good deal of time and we walked the boundary line way up the hill we went and we learned a lot about it. So we were there a long time getting educated on earth excavation.
Which I.
So, it was,
There was a lot of good historical information too on different things that have been done in the past that improvements have been done to them, but
Right.
certain information will come different
we
ways.
learned a lot about the history of the site.
Yeah.
Through its various ownerships and
And we should
And
say
so forth.
cooperation of the owners of the site too, that cooperated in supplying all it. That's what a lot of that information.
yes, it was a very
They didn't do it, so we had full cooperation.
full cooperation to be there as long as we wanted it and ask as many questions, and we walked the whole thing, we went everywhere.
You know, no
on-
questions, no seeing out of bounds. We could see whatever we wanted. We can go wherever we wanted. So there were no out of bounds, no limits put on us.
And we're welcome back there if we ever have a question. Again, we are welcome to go and see with our own eyes or ask the question. So it was a wonderful, and it was during daylight hours. We went during when we could see something. The prior visit from the other two was pretty tough to do with very little light for very long, but we went, I think it was 10 o'clock or something. We went, we were there.
Why don't we do them in August?
So
Good.
we used to do them twice a year. We used to do them twice a year and we're now just once a year. And we were late doing them.
And one of the problems was we didn't have a quorum.
Right, but we never had a.
Do it. So that was a problem, getting people on board to get the quorum to go do what we're supposed to do, and we were pretty well received and received
Great,
good cooperation from the property owners.
super.
Okay, that's a report on that. We talked a little bit about the master plan. Correspondence received, there's 2 here. One is it came certified mail, just letting us know that there is a shoreland permit application filed on 11 Sugar Plum Lane. And it's filed with DES, and we're gonna review it, shoreland impact permit that they want. And we figured if it's down past our well site, probably on the land that Ralph Bradley sold.
Sure.
He came in for subdivision, remember? So it kind of looks like it's down in there. Which I don't know any more detail other than letting us know when it's been filed. And then we got an inquiry from, in a butter to the Divine property. They just bought a home nearby, and they just had some questions about our local earth excavation regulations and their rights as landowners. And they were under the belief that the landowner of the Divine property was going to dig a gravel pit on the land. And that they hadn't received any notices of that and so forth, and had some questions how the process works. And I don't know, they kind of indicated they were going to attend our meeting via Zoom. Are they here?
Yes, she's gone.
Okay, and is there any other public present, by the way?
I don't know if you can hear us, but we sent the email about the Divine property. This is Andy Glancy, Michael Rochford.
Okay, did you have some questions of us in person that you wanted to ask? I do not believe there, right at this point, there's any intent to file another earth excavation permit on the Divine parcel. And the owner of that parcel is in attendance here, so he can probably answer any questions. But as far as I know, you do not intend to file another permit, earth excavation permit on the Divine property, do you, Rex?
No.
No, the answer is no.
So, sorry, just to provide some background, we had noticed that there had been some people driving around back there, and we'd asked, I think Rex, it might have been your son, he said there was plans to dig in a couple of years. So we were just curious as to what the status of the current permit was and the plans for that, because like we said, we hadn't received any notice. We were just curious what the current plans for the property were and the time frame for that. So apologies that we couldn't attend in person. We're visiting my family for Christmas, but
Okay. Rex, do you have any intent to do any more excavating there and the activity there, you know, the trucks coming in and out?
I guess that's why we're here, so,
Okay,
you can answer that at a later time, I guess, so.
all right. All right. Yeah, they do have, they may have plans, but it's not an earth excavation plan.
okay.
And we're gonna talk about it if you stay tuned.
Just to ask if he's got any plans on his property.
If you stay tuned, you're gonna hear, they have a question before us concerning that property, and so stay tuned and you'll hear what they might be planning in the future, but it's not further earth excavation. So stay on the Zoom, and if you have further questions, then you can ask them.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see. I have on here short-term rental questions,
That's something the select board is looking at.
something you are looking at.
And Cheryl's kind of leading the charge on that, so I don't want to say too much, but just, there's a lot of litigation going on right now and state laws and all kinds of things, so just looking at it to see where it goes. I think what might happen, again, we're just looking at it, maybe some type of a reasonable fee just to have these inspected and registered with the town, you know. So that they meet all the safety requirements and stuff.
Well, Lincoln has that kind of a process, I just happen to know.
But it's not gonna be as hard as Lincoln's, I'll tell you that.
You pay whatever money and you just register that you intend to do short-term rentals and.
Basically, enough to cover the cost of the inspection
Yeah.
and stuff like that,
And
so
that-
it's not gonna be anything outrageous. As far as I know, I mean, people may come up with different ideas. This is just this is a thought, nothing's been really decided, nothing's, it's just being discussed, and Charlotte has been following what North Conway's doing, and a lot of other towns are doing. stuff like
Right.
that, So,
Who would be the inspector?
well, the fire will be John McKay. Yeah, so. And that's, I think, the biggest concern right now, and so that we know who the owners are, the rental agents are, so if something happens on a property and the police are having trouble, we have a number to call. We be able to follow up and figure out what's
Is
going
there a
on.
lot of this happening that's prompting this? I mean,
Some,
can we
yeah.
get a report of the numbers of incidences that have happened, and numbers per month, per week, per
No,
year?
no, there's just been a couple
So
people that rented these houses out that just have caused a lot of issues. And so, I think, but there's no talk of banning, I mean, there's none of that.
well, you could never get away with banning it.
No,
because
I
they could just
agree, I don't
create
want it, believe me.
They could just create an LLC and then they're the same as you
No,
are.
no, I agree.
You know,
I think if anything happened, it would be just that, like $100 a year to have it inspected and make sure everybody knows what's going on.
And what might be good information just to know, who the owner is in case you need to notify them if something's going on there at their property that.
You already know, it's in the tax roll. Anybody can look up any piece of property right now.
Well, the trouble is that a lot of these people have people in charge in the area, or that they don't really do it themselves, so
They
that's.
they have agencies that run the.
Yes,
the
exactly.
REOs, what it comes down to. They have outside agencies that do it.
It's the host is the person that they contact. Mine in Vermont, I had no contact except for the person I was hosting them. And we were part of the affiliation with an Airbnb, and they were very stringent. They had a list for the person doing the renting, and they had
Over months, tough.
well, on this particular one, yeah, and they had actually bad tenants, for example.
Sure.
They'll get a point on them if they've left it, unruly.
Yeah.
And then if there's a complaint from the tenant, that was also listed, so,
But not really any big problems, is that you've been a
yeah.
like.
But if you get a bunch of young
Yeah,
kids, the same thing as a
Couple
hotel.
times they've had the Eddie Claremont's house, people. Big group have been in there, and so.
Mhm.
So you're thinking of putting in some sort of a.
It's just been talked about, we haven't decided if we're gonna do it or try to do it, and that may not be legal either. So, we don't know. We don't know, we're just talking about it, that's all.
Okay. The other, question that came up, was from Steve LaFrance, who was inquiring on behalf of, Rex and Cheryl concerning, the Divine property and the potential plan to build a, certain number of 30, maybe, no set number, decided at this point. A manufactured housing park for seniors. And the question was, whether that type of a project would be a subdivision or not a subdivision. And the reason, obviously, they need to know is, of course, over the winter to put together, do everything they need to do in order to get whatever approvals they need. The town attorney has taken the position previously and reinforced it that in the town attorney's opinion, it is a subdivision.
It is not. I do not agree with that opinion.
So that's the town attorney's opinion.
I'd like another attorney's opinion.
For your information, I did talk to the local government center, which I always do. to get free legal advice.
When you get an opinion from an attorney, I expect to see the exact RSA and all the details associated with that opinion. Because I have found that our town attorney is very one-sided and gives a particular opinion that supports a particular goal. And I have found that on multiple occasions at this point, and I'm rather displeased with that.
She put it in writing in July, that was her opinion, and she basically said, is this the same, project? Is this the same scenario you asked us in July? And the answer was yes. And, well, I haven't changed my opinion. So the town's opinion is, it is a subdivision. The local government
Wait,
centers.
you need to
opinion-
say who the people are that are the town for the town's opinion. I don't like when you do this.
The town attorney is Laura,
The town attorney is not a town, it's an employee of the town. So that is not the town's opinion.
That's the town attorney's opinion.
That's a town
Period.
attorney's opinion. And until we see the details of the writing,
Town's attorney's opinion. The local government center's opinion, which that's just the second place I call. It's free legal advice and their municipal folks. The local government center said it is not. So.
Can we get that in
And
writing? from them?
the local government center will not put it in writing, they don't provide towns
just
with,
tell you what they think.
they don't, yeah, it's opinions, it's advice, it's some place to call, and if you're wondering something, run it by them. And it's available to all towns free of charge to call, and so their opinion is, it is not. The town attorney's opinion is that it is, because of the word site. The word site is in the definition of what is a subdivision. A subdivision of land is into more than two or more sites, plots. Because the word site is in there.
Then you'd have to include all the
Hey.
campgrounds,
Well, yes,
and they're not.
that's the
And there's not a
conclusion.
trailer park in this town that's a subdivision.
But that doesn't mean, into the future, in the past. And I don't know when the word site showed up in that definition. It wasn't in there years ago. And it's site, lot, plot. For rent, lease. No condominium conveyance or building development, that's another interesting word. So, that's the situation we're in, is we have. The town attorney's opinion versus an opinion of another professional that, is, has.
Does that
experience.
extend to the development across the street?
So,
Does that extend to the one down the street that they want to do? Because it should be across the
that's
two. It
building,
should be there.
that's building. It's when you're dividing land, when you have a mobile home park or a manufactured housing park or things like that, you're actually assigning this site to put your home on. And that's the position the town attorney is taking, it's a site.
I think too, when the town attorney said that, though, she said that the subdivision rules are guidelines. And that it depends on the certain, what the project is supposed to be like, where the neighborhood is supposed to be created, what the end result of the project is. So there are guidelines that can be varied from too, in specific instances like this. If you want to be able to create a mobile home park, then you could go stray from the actual subdivision rules and make variances to those.
She did say,
That's just what she said. pretty much.
she did say, and, whatever position we take, you know, we need to be consistent from this point forward. If whatever decision we take, she said that is the town attorney's reading and advice.
My interpretation, of the meeting that you were talking about was that there was
Sorry, can I ask a question?
the feeling of
Just one
wanting
second,
people
I'll
to
write
follow
in
the
1 second.
rules of a subdivision without being a subdivision. In other words, the width of the roads and things like that.
I think she said it was a subdivision though, but I think we could make. We didn't have to follow the exact rules of this for this purpose, you know, it may be. A good place to vary the rules for this purpose, is what she said. I don't know what it means, so.
She did say, that's my advice. And you are a board. And you can ignore my advice. Or you can, I only give advice. I only give my opinion of the law. If you don't like it, well, you can do what you want. No, seriously, that's about,
Rex, have you had any legal
That's a-
opinion on this?
that's
or-
about a quote.
So we were here before, and it was a sub,
Yes,
Okay,
and Steve McFerrin's calling me today, he couldn't attend the meeting tonight, our behalf. And he is representing a head,
right,
and we are not subdividing any of that land. We're renting it out just like we were renting a condo over ahead.
but it's land and not a building,
it's
that's what
land,
Laura
that's the
said.
difference there.
But we're not subdividing it, we wanna own it all, but it's never gonna
Right.
be subdivided.
Yeah, I don't almost see the difference of that or a campground.
Let me give you another example local in town. The Linwood Storage on 175
Right.
owns the property across the street. They lease space for people to park trailers, campers, cars, a variety of things on that. That's not a subdivision. That's exactly what they're doing. They're
I look at this
space
as more of a nice, not campground, but a nice, you know what I mean?
We're trying to do like a.
You know what I'm saying, you know, I think it's a good, I think it's a great project.
All the only reason why we're here is we just need to know which direction.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So Steve LaFrance can do the plans accordingly.
So are we, I guess we have to decide whether we're going to say it's a subdivision or not.
Right, that's the whole crux of the matter,
But
Yeah.
he's not subdividing, he's owning the property, they're only renting.
It doesn't
agree.
matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter when it
Well, I
says
mean, I
site,
can add one more thing. We can turn it into like a co-op, like across the street. from
Yes.
that. So the people that live there can own it down the road if that's what it needs to be. But that isn't our goal. Our goal is to build it out and keep it forever. So
I think, and there's another thing that comes to play here also, that's a new law. And that is, let's just say, you know, we call it a mobile home park. I mean, I think they now have a fancier word, and it's not a subdivision. And it's a park model, like we used to seeing years ago. All the ones we've had for 20, 30 years. We've had them forever. We haven't had a new one before us for probably 30 years, 20 years.
Don't forget,
So,
don't forget our.
oh, yes, and so, under the new RSA's, and something you might want to think about is if you're a mobile home park and you want to sell it, like you just said, you intend to own it anyway forever and ever. But if there ever came a day that you wanted to sell it, you now have to offer it to the folks that live in there and give them the opportunity to form a co-op and give them an opportunity to buy it from you. You have to offer it to them first before you put it on the
well,
open
I think
market.
that's your telling me that, but
Yeah,
that's your opinion, but we don't need to do that, but that is the ultimate goal, is to turn it into a co-op. But have the people of the community own it themselves.
right.
That's why it needs to follow subdivision plans, so it's built properly, because those people don't know what to do.
Well, you.
That's why it's up to the planning board to make sure you follow all the rules and make sure things are built properly.
It
the
is
right
not up
way.
to the planning board to foresee the future,
No, it's just to
just
push,
to look at,
just to
what's
push
going on
contractors
today.
and developers to follow the right laws.
And,
that's not the planning board's job.
and that is, I wonder
That's
what,
why your town attorney says it is.
I
Well, that was
wonder,
her opinion.
I wonder what, state regulations, I wonder what state, do you know, Rex, what state regulations are out there for when you wanna, put together like a park like that? Are there state regulations?
Yep, there's alteration of claim permit too, because if you don't
Listen,
go
they
with a
don't-
subdivision, you need to do an alteration of claim permit. And if you go to the excavation handbook, it's clear that you have to have one or the other. And there's no in between. That's what the attorney's saying. And the attorney.
The
with the
attorney saying we get to
municipal-
make that
Well,
decision as a
one second,
board.
Bob, let me finish up. So the municipal association, isn't that also the town's general liability insurer?
No,
Don't they protect you if you get sued?
No,
we have a separate insurance company.
no, they might offer an insurance pool, there are some
They do.
insurance,
But Woodstock's
but-
not in their pool.
but, no, I don't, think- where do we get our insurance?
But
They
that's where the
offer-
advice
They
comes from.
offer,
They're trying to not get the town in trouble by letting one developer do one thing and another developer do another thing, which becomes discrimination. And that's
Well,
why
that's true.
they're pushing you to follow the state subdivision plans or development claim permit.
It's a tough one.
it really is a tough one, it really, really, really is a
To
tough.
me, I
Not-
don't see
not
it
if
as
you
a
follow the
subdivision
law, it's
personally,
easy.
but
So the state does not say that you have to have subdivision approval.
no,
It's the town.
municipal.
No,
association.
that's up to the town, absolutely. But if it isn't a subdivision, are there regulations that dictate, you know?
How they're set up and- yeah.
Yeah. how
Yeah, once
it's
you go over
set up,
100,000 square feet, you have. to do
How it's
operation
set
of
up and to be a safe environment, because in general, parks are close living and, you know, you don't have, they're close living and so there must be some, health and safety, regulations that the state does have that dictate, how you set up a park.
Also just, it's gotta have. You were mentioning this today, Jerry, that if it's a dead end street, the police can't go down that street, it's like,
Please don't go down dead end street. Gotta have an egress and egress.
I think there's
so
some,
the
it's
town
not-
would have to,
You have to get a fire truck down and an ambulance.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's all part of that, yeah.
That all depends on the class of the road.
And that's another whole
You should
question.
be jumping right in.
well, it is,
No,
but I mean,
With everything you're
How about-
spouting,
how about
let's
I'll
get
keep
all the
that
details.
as question.
Absolutely.
Yes, the couple that's here, have a question, what was your question?
Yeah, just to be clear, Rex, is this what you're planning? Is it 311 North Woodstock or Daniel Webster Highway?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, so
That's
that
what-
was our main question, is just what you were planning on doing with that land. So thanks, that answers our question.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thank you. So, it's a tough question, in general, towns follow the advice of their attorney. Usually,
but we're unique, remember?
Yeah.
we are unique.
Quaint.
And I don't know, whether, how it affects, how going one direction or the other, how it affects the residents in the park, how it affects the
Or maybe that
construction
word
of the
strike,
street.
not site, if it shouldn't be, we should get rid of it.
No, it's in the law.
It's in the subdivision regulations.
No, it's a state law.
Oh, it is. Okay.
State law, site, they threw site, and I don't know when in the world that ever showed up. I don't remember it from years ago. We always were hit with plots, lots, in parcels
What page,
and
Chris?
rent, lease.
It's
I just don't think we can go.
page
blindly
380,
against the town.
670.
I don't think we can either.
I think maybe get,
38672.
maybe, maybe to get a relook at it, you know, and really tell her our concerns and what we think, you know.
I think we need a meeting with the town attorney and have her explain to us more thoroughly her position.
She could
on-
zoom in the next meeting, I'm sure.
I think it would be unusual.
Wouldn't you have to do that first, though, shouldn't we at least get plans first and then present it to the attorney and say, you know, not get anything concrete, but say, hey, this is what we're looking at and maybe possibly doing, and then showing the attorney, and then the.
I think the trouble is you guys would be spending money.
Well, we already are.
I'm just worried that, you know, you get further down the road, you know, and then if it has to change, then you have to spend more money to change it. And that's the only thing that worries me.
Yeah, no, we don't want you to get too far along not knowing.
But what she also was clear in the email, and I wish we had it, was that these are some of the regulations we have. If you came up with a plan that we thought was suitable, that needed some, you know, loosening of those regulations for a particular purpose, like a mobile home park or, you know, this type of thing. Then she said, that's why you have a board. You can make those changes. You know, if we don't need that, I'm just making it up here. I'm just saying, if you don't need 50 feet, you need 40 feet. Well, or like, you don't need, you know, whatever. So I'm just saying,
And you
we
know,
should have her here and just have her say what she
we
thought.
should, and we should really be clear on what difference it makes, like, what difference it makes to the functioning of the park and the folks in the park. You know, what they're getting for roads, you know, what they're getting for whatever.
Yeah.
Health and safety and things, and there may be a way to have a hybrid situation.
Right.
Call it a subdivision, but not make it be such a complicated,
Why, like she said,
drawn out
she
thing.
says the subdivision regulations are guidelines.
Yes,
That's all. You don't have to follow them to the T. You can make exception to those guidelines
right.
for certain purposes, you know, and this might be one of those purposes.
Listen, we don't want no exceptions. We want to know which direction they're headed.
No, I wish this is very clear to me.
To answer this gentleman's question right up here, for our alteration of terrain, that's what we're trying to work on right now. And this is the gentleman that was behind everything, Kevin Foley, about turning us in and said that we were under, over 100,000 cubic square feet down at the vines. So they dragged the state in, he dragged everybody in, and I want to let the board know that the state is behind us 100% on this thing. They did their own topo of everything out there, which you got a letter from the state, the planning board, and found us not in any violations at all out there, thanks to Mr. Foley.
Right, but that letter also says if you do any more work, you need an alteration of terrain permit,
Oh, we know
right?
That's what
That's-
we're looking for.
That's what,
And actually for the board, I took the information from the board meeting said that the Divine Pit was out of compliance,
No, you didn't.
and
You had
that's
no
actually,
letterhead.
it's in the minute meetings.
The state sent it with your letterhead
that.
on
Right,
it.
we haven't got
Yeah.
that from the attorney, from you.
Your
Yeah.
letterhead.
Has your name on it.
No, I filed the claim.
this is
But I
going
used
down.
the
Yeah, let's,
minutes from our meeting.
Let's move forward and figure out just how we should handle this and.
All we need is an answer. That's all Steve
Right.
wants, either way.
If we,
Shouldn't be difficult
if
either.
we- if
We
we-
need one or we don't need one.
if we say it's a subdivision,
Then
um,
the piece across the street of the campground is falling under them guidelines.
I don't know, where's that? What piece is that across?
The head project.
We had,
That's a building.
that's that is a division of a building, not a division of land. It's not sites.
You just said condos earlier. Building that condos, that's exactly what you just said.
And I have yet to see any documentation from the state or otherwise that says that that is a subdivision. So I'm gonna need to see that. If you're, I mean, I can't produce it because I don't believe it
Right.
exists. So you think it exists and you think the town attorney says something that they say exists, please produce it and tell us where it came from and who
It's
produced
in
it.
the definition of subdivision.
You're talking about the Maple Lodge cabins?
Um, the Maple Lodge cabins, no, we were talking about the Divine property, which is the one you inquired about. The other project, the Ahead project they're talking about is on, Lost River Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not down in your neighborhood, it's a different project in town.
I wrote campground. Is that not the Maple Lodge cabins? Just trying to orient.
Campground,
Maple Haven.
Maple Haven, oh, that's Maple Haven, that's also on Route 112.
All right, thanks. Sorry to interrupt the flow.
No, thank you for your questions.
I mean, we're just trying to do the right thing, I just.
That's all we're trying to do is do the right thing here. And it's not easy. It's not easy. We're all wrestling with this. So what do? We need to meet with Laura. And we need to become very familiar with our subdivision regulations and what, go down that route. This is what you do. And you know, what manufactured housing parks, what regulations they are out there and what they do, what they have to do. You know, and how going down one.
Does it
path or
make
the
a
other.
big difference to you guys in the layout if it is a subdivision or not? That's what maybe we're just talking about something that doesn't really mean, you know what I'm saying? If it is a subdivision, you're gonna be each 15 feet from the lot line for the buildings. And you're gonna have the road layout, which you're gonna do right anyway. So maybe we're just talking about something that's not really an issue. I don't know.
Once again, Steve asked for this answer.
Right.
3 months
It's easy for us to say it's a
2
subdivision.
months ago, and he emailed, and like I
Yeah.
said, he was gonna be here representing us tonight,
Yeah.
but he couldn't attend, so he just needs an answer which direction to head. And it was supposed to be, we were supposed to have an answer for him 3 months ago.
So what do you want to do?
So it seems to me at this point that the sensible thing to do is to make the decision that it is a subdivision.
No,
because
I
that
would
would
not
put
agree
more
with that.
stringent regulations.
No, that's just the easy answer. That is not.
I can't go against the town
I
attorney.
can't even.
If we operate as if it's a subdivision and it turns out that we can relax the regulation,
That's what I'm thinking too.
There's
The
no
stuff that
harm.
Steve runs into that makes it a challenge, that we could look at that.
How many here have read the statement of the town attorney? You? How can any of these people go with that when they have not read that? That would be completely inappropriate. You're asking people to go and get behind something
True.
they have not seen.
Well, I agree. I'd just like to say. I'd like to just say,
Historically.
I'd like to just say it isn't a subdivision, just move on.
It'd be nice to have an answer. for
But I
themselves.
just- I just
They
may
make
have a
plans,
problem
so-
going against what the town attorney tells us.
Well, historically, it never has been. So you have a historic precedence, in fact, in multiple locations where it's not a subdivision. So you've got the entire history of the town versus the supposed statement of an attorney that we haven't read.
so the fact that things have been grandfathered in previously doesn't mean that it's not current law.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean as a board we can't allow it.
She hasn't quoted the law to us. We haven't seen it in writing.
It's the definition of subdivision. It's the, RSA.
Do you have the email one?
She just, it was talking to her on the phone. She didn't have time. She just got back from vacation this morning.
No, I mean the original email.
The original email.
I don't have my computer with me. I could probably pull it up, but.
Don't know.
You're welcome.
It's just it'd be a search, you know, in my computer, I could go right to the town stuff and find it. It would take a while.
So what's the levels of the board? Does anybody want to make a motion? And we vote.
It doesn't sound like it would be.
To vote for ignorance is really, it's an ignorant vote.
But it's in our regulation and it's in the law. It's. Do we want to call her and get her to put it in writing and have a meeting and
When you're
I
enforcing
think,
the law,
I think
you need to
they
have it
don't want
documented.
to start, they want to try to answer so that
Yeah.
Steve can get going on the work. I think she was
Right.
the problem.
Well, I don't know this for a fact, but Steve said he tried to get in touch with you numerous times and you numerous times, and neither one of you responded back to it just today or yesterday.
yeah, today I did. I sent him an email saying that I was on vacation and I'd be back. He was on vacation too. He said, well, I'm on vacation too. So I sent him an email before I left on vacation, said I was on vacation and I would be back on last Thursday. And I finally got to talk to him today. Because he was on vacation too, so we just didn't connect until today. And Laura just got back, wouldn't have been the answer anyway, just got back from vacation today. So,
3 months ago,
what's that?
3 months ago, we asked you not, yes.
3 months, well, 3 months ago, the topic came up, but we didn't hear any more about it, and I wasn't sure whether, you know,
Steve would wait for an answer.
still thinking that. So what do you want to do? Does anybody want to make a motion of any sort? Do we want to?
Well, one thing we can do is we can go with town precedents and vote that it's not a subdivision, and we have that authority as board. We can do that.
We can go against our attorney's advice. We always can do that, but boy, I hesitate to do it. Because
We're gonna do it for the next person,
they're going to be the ones
Maybe,
that
but we'll see what happens with the next person.
will
but if we
represent
don't,
us.
then you're discriminating.
No, no,
If
you're making a decision at the moment.
somebody
Thank you for your input.
questions us or somebody raises a challenge about it or anything. I would have to say it's a subdivision and that we you know, see if there's ways to make it be
So let me ask you that
not
one
that,
more question.
sure,
So if I owned all of the land and I put 30 houses, 30 trailers on that,
yeah,
and I own the 30 trailers. And now I rented out 30 trailers. Is it a subdivision or does Rex own the whole thing?
That's not a subdivision.
It's not a subdivision, Rex owns the whole
Red
thing.
zone,
Right.
the whole thing.
That's a good question.
Oh, God.
It really is.
It's hard.
No, that's an obvious.
Well, it'd be an alteration of crane permit at that point.
The operation.
Not if he owned all the properties on it, it
Once he
wouldn't
goes
be.
over 100,000 square feet,
Laura said it does not matter how you manage the thing or how you govern it or how you do anything. It's if you divided the land up into,
I'm not dividing any of the land.
you're dividing it into sites.
I'm not dividing any of the land.
You're
I
dividing,
understand there's one parcel of land.
you're dividing it into sites for land.
No, I'm leasing you that spot right there. I'm not
Right.
subdividing any of the land.
And
That's what Steve tried to get across to you last time.
that is,
And to take this one step further, because I don't want to be here all night either, is that he's seen it go both ways. 95% of the time, he says that the planning board does not have any parcel of any of the trailer parks that we got up north. It's not under the regulations of the planning board.
Right,
But he says, occasionally you get that one person who wants to be part of that. And this is all coming from Mr. LaFrance today. And Mr. LaFrance is like an attorney. Every time I talk to him, it costs me money.
Don't I?
So he wants an answer either way, yes or no,
Right.
which way we're going with it. Not in 3 months from now, but
Right.
within a couple days.
right. So
So
what
like I said, I can't emphasize enough, I'm not selling them the lot. I'm gonna always own the lot. Back your camper in here, take your camper out of here. You're not subdividing anything down there. The nice part about that is if we don't like you and you don't follow the rules of the trailer park, you do hook onto your trailer and get it out of there.
Mhm.
Plus you're in charge of the maintenance and
We're
having
in
it
charge of
stay.
everything.
So if somebody doesn't have a lawnmower and doesn't mow it for the whole summer,
We're gonna do all of the maintenance.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the gravel,
Right.
we're gonna do the snow plow, we're gonna do everything.
right,
Fix your water line if it breaks, and have your sewer system pumped,
so if there's somebody we need to talk to, it's you.
it's us.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't know where you're focusing on that we're subdividing the land. I'm not subdividing anything. The 25 acres over my 100,000 square feet. We're gonna go in there, we're gonna own it all, and you can back your camper on there next week, not campers, sir, your motorhome. Mobile home, excuse me.
I was saying to you before.
And this. Just a
And you
question.
said that,
came
you
to
said
me
that
is,
municipal government
if
said
it's
it,
like
said it wasn't,
mobile home, it
So
comes on
his
wheels.
right.
If you leave them on, it's still.
And there's a real need for
Take
this.
off, you can put it back on.
Right,
Okay,
so
or is
that's
that
what kind of changed that. Are they going on foundation?
It doesn't
No.
talk about
Slow down.
No, it doesn't talk about subdivision at all. It talks about exactly the kind of project that Rex was talking about. And it describes it in the way that he's describing it, and it sounds like one solid piece of land.
I'm willing to go with that if we have that legal opinion, I guess. Laura, show us.
My reading
Laura's
of
gonna kill
that, if we went with it under
Ah, yours,
RSA
Laura.
25,
Yeah,
I would say it's not a subdivision.
right.
Okay, I don't know why everybody focused that I was selling a lot. I'm
You're
not
not.
selling a lot.
Yeah, I think she
I'm
knew
gonna
she
leave the
was
whole
doing
piece of
something.
property alone.
What's that? Yeah, she knows that. No, the word in there is site, that's the
I
problem.
agree
Well, we'll
with you.
change that. We'll put area.
Area.
The word site. So what is, do we want to,
I make a motion, we follow the RSA and the local government center advice on this one and say it's not a subdivision. I'll make that.
I will
motion.
second that.
So we just won't keep it going. I mean, I have mixed feelings on this one, I'll tell you. But I think it's a good project, you know.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
And it's a project that's needed, so.
Yeah,
you know, I'm
absolutely.
More than second that.
But once again, what you can review the plans. Even though it's not a subdivision, and if the planning board has something they want to change, that's what Steve said.
Right.
But we can't legally, we can if you, invite us to.
Well, the town,
That's what he's doing.
We can't,
That's what he's saying. He's gonna invite you to it.
and honestly, I do think if Steve's involved and these guys wanna do a nice job, I think, they're gonna do a good job. I really do.
oh, I do too. Either way, I think it's.
Could I just make one more note of all the things that you passed out here today?
Mhm.
Everything we're talking about doing with this not being a subdivision follows right in with things like your citizens' desires. Where we talk about, more affordable housing opportunities for residents. And we're also talking about, this is gonna utilize and draw revenue into the water system.
Yeah.
That we have in town. It's gonna, start helping with increasing the population of the town. So I'm ready to vote.
That's a good question.
All right, we've got a motion. Who made the motion?
Scott,
Scott made the
We like to.
motion.
Go.
Seconded that we say it is not a subdivision? Okay, all right, any other questions? Any other comments? All right. You want to call the vote?
Sure. Scott,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Christina,
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the town attorney and say no.
You'll be her hero.
I'm by myself,
She's
but
gonna
I'm
do
the
it.
chair and I'm supposed to listen to the town attorney, I think.
She yells at me all the time already.
I'm going to try.
you're paying her, she's not paying
I'm
you. So,
going to say no. So, okay, that's our decision and,
motion carries.
the motion carries.
You are not a
So could
subdivision.
somebody send a letter off to Stephen LaFrance?
All right, and thank you for being here. Does anybody, on Zoom or anybody here in the audience have any questions or input or anything they want to, tell us? Or ask us?
Sorry, this is more of a question for Rex specifically, but hey, Rex, what's the way you prefer to be contacted if we wanted to reach out and just talk to you one-on-one instead of in this governmental setting?
I'll give you my cell phone,
Okay, I got a pen and paper if you,
603-348-7144.
yep, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for getting involved and tune in anytime. We're here the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock. This is unusual because we didn't have enough votes for a quorum last Monday, but listen in anytime. Thank you for attending.
Yeah,
Anybody?
hopefully in person next time.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have anything to add or anybody on the board have anything to add? So we're gonna, John, yeah,
Is the Divine Pit excavation permit still active?
no.
When did it expire?
Well, Divine had a permit, I think that it still
until 2020.
has time on it. Divine had a permit that has time on it. I think it's May 2023.
So it's still active
But
then?
Divine doesn't own it anymore, so. We've taken the position that it is not a permitted site. And Rex and Sherry have not come forward and asked for a permit for it, or a name change, or anything. They haven't asked for a permit for it. So,
Okay, so just so I follow the path here, Rex, you own it now, correct? Oh, okay. And Divine has nothing to do, and the permit was issued in Divine's name?
yes,
So therefore, the permit ceased.
yes.
How long ago did you buy it, Rex? Oh, the reason why I'm asking is, going back to the RSA 155 Echo again. Section 5 is within 12 months after the expiration date and a permit issued under this chapter or completion of excavation, whichever occurs first, the owner of the excavated land shall have completed the area, the rest reclamation areas affected by the excavation to meet the minimum standards defined.
Right,
And when you issued that permit to Mr. Devine, there was some sort of reclamation requirement.
right,
If it's been more than a year, you're in non-compliance with this section.
right.
You have outs, but you don't seem to have taken them. I could go over to 155 Echo 5/Bravo for exceptions. You can take and have a hearing to where you can relax that 12 months. But in order to do that, you have to comply with section 7 and have a public hearing.
Mhm.
So basically what you're doing is you're putting Rex on the spot by delaying giving him the decision of whether it's a subdivision or not, so he can proceed with his AOT for something that the town needs. And as a planning board, you're failing to enforce the RSA for the excavation permit that you approved.
The time has not expired on our ability to require restoration of that property.
And Bonnie, I think we did have a meeting back in
Still
June.
is possible if
You talked,
necessary.
we had a hearing in June
Yeah,
when, Rex had talked to the state and the state came back and they agreed on a plan that as the reclamation would be making this into this,
Yes.
new park. So the state was okay with that.
the state was okay with installing any requirement to restore.
Because this would do it.
Because this project here probably should accomplish the restoration necessary to restore the site.
Right.
So,
And that's okay, but the problem that you didn't do is you didn't have the public hearing required by section 7. One, as an abutter, if you had a meeting, a public hearing in June, I never got, or
he's not in.
I'm not an abutter on that particular one.
Right.
You're right,
You're
you're right,
straight.
you're right, yeah.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I'm with you.
But
But
my point being is there's ways of doing what you're doing and being legal about doing it. But you have to at least look at the document and try to follow it, is the point that I'm trying to make.
Thank you for your input.
You're welcome.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Rex,
so this, when the state was out there to make sure that we were under compliant.
right,
They actually made the comment themselves, let's use a little bit of common sense that rather than put the restoration plan,
right.
and you were all part of that,
Yes.
Right.
rather than restore this now and dig it back
And-
out.
and
The
dig it
state was
back
all
up.
on board.
And we still have the option if all is said and done.
So the other option to this is that Walter Devine has still got that active permit. So all he has to do is pay his gravel tax, and we can keep moving forward under Walter Devine. He doesn't have to be the owner. He has to be the active.
Right,
My point being is, those are things that needs to be looked at and followed. You have the solution, you're just not
we
following the
we
process.
can always take the position, and this was told to us, this is advice that we were given, that we could take the position if it becomes necessary to say that Divine's permit has a permit and doesn't expire until May of 2023, and that pushes restoration out for 12 months to May of 2024. Push comes to shove, and the site doesn't get restored looking nice and like it should, and whatever needs to be done, we still could go after Divine until May of 2024 because of that permit he had. And, isn't using now, but we can go after Divine.
Is
to-
that something you're gonna do?
If it,
I don't think so, because Rex is gonna be well underway by then.
that's an option we have. And so, we were told that's an option we have. All said and done, and the place it isn't restored and it's a wreck. We can always use that avenue and go after Divine, who has a permit to May 2024.
So the town still has the bond from Divine.
That's the bond from Culver.
We have a bond, it's in
From
Calder's
Calder's
name
name.
now, but we have a bond, we actually have a current bond. And we could call up Divine and say, oh, this isn't done to our satisfaction, you gotta come in here and do some work. Until May 2024.
I'm in complete agreement with
So-
Rex, what Rex is trying to do down
Right.
there. It does not make any sense to pay all the money to restore the land
Right.
and turn around a month later and dig it all back up. That just makes absolutely no sense.
That is an
But
option.
in order to do that, what I'm trying to make sure that the planning board is doing is you're looking at the RSA requirements what's specified, and you have a roadblock or a path to success for meeting those three criteria.
You need to understand that there is an existing permit in the name of Divine. Divine can contract or purchase material via Rex and contract any excavating company he wants to go in and take material. He has that right if Rex chooses to give him that right.
And,
So the other things that you're talking about, they're
and
moot.
Divine can't get rid of his liabilities by selling the place. He still could be held on the hook until May of 2024. He got the permit, he wanted it. That's part of the deal. Could, if it becomes necessary, it's probably not going to be because probably this project is going to restore it. But that option is always available to us because you don't get rid of a liability or a responsibility by selling it. You don't. You signed up for it and that's what we were told. So that is still hanging out there. You know, we don't use it now, we don't need it now, but that's still hanging out there if we need to go that route.
Well, it goes back to the question I asked originally. The owner of the pit right now is a member of the Calder family, correct?
Right,
The permit was issued to Divine.
right.
The permit should transfer it over to the Calder family by the RSA. And that has to be a letter that's approved by this planning board. Has that been done?
No, Rex doesn't want one. First of all, you gotta want a earth excavation permit. We can't make you come get one.
We're not digging on it.
You've gotta want one.
Oh, so there's no digging?
No.
No,
Gotcha.
no digging.
Yeah.
He doesn't
We
want one.
thought, I personally thought you were still digging
No.
down there.
He doesn't
So
want one.
the stopgap. So what you wanna do is you wanna walk and take a walk with these guys, but next time they have a pit inspection, come along with us.
You'll get a great education. You learn to knock a lot.
So the stockpile we got down there, as you see the trucks going on, that's all stockpile that we have down there. There's no
We learned a
excavation.
lot about that industry.
See, I did not know that. I
Yeah,
thought
no,
you
it's
were
not
still-
digging.
Based upon what the gentleman was asking up here about the excavation things, I thought you were still digging.
No.
We got 10 pits in this backyard.
But that's the long and short of it. That's, you know, that's the long and short of how this
And how
might
that,
work.
that came about with
sometimes.
him, is my son and grandson was hunting on our own property. And him and his wife decided to come up there, they were up in the tree stand. And he walked underneath it, how funny it was. And they're like,
We're done. Are we done? Any other
Yep, well,
questions?
there's-
Yes, sir.
I have desire to join the board as an alternate. So I have
Okay.
written a
You
letter.
got a letter? Sure. Give us the letter and tell us
Thank
your
you.
name and a little bit about yourself.
Well, most of you know me.
Oh, you're Christina's husband.
Yeah,
Okay.
Christina.
Figured that out.
I met you, but I
Yeah, we
didn't put two and two together. All right, we'll put this on the agenda for
Sure.
next meeting you want? All right, we'll put it on. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for volunteering, just so.
We need two pants on?
That's right. If everyone, I'll volunteer not to show up, so that.
So you want to save this for the next time?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll save it for the next time. It'll be on the agenda. Thank you.
You're
Thank
gonna
you.
scan it and send it to everybody?
Yeah,
yeah.
scan it and send it to everybody.
Please.
And I'm sorry I didn't recognize you, but thank you.
I mean.
Well, he looks good.
I'll second. Oh, quick.
Yeah, did not work.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
Made a change.
Make a change.